So yeah, we are recording the class so that we can share it to you all after the class. Okay, let's get started. Oh, and then also, like I said, we will be introducing Big River Farm tools with one of our operations team members, Pierce, towards the end. All right, so an introduction to the greenhouse, and these are pictures of our greenhouse at Big River Farms. So this is kind of the initial beginning stage of the seed starting, and then this is what it looks like once they start getting a little bit bigger, which is really, yeah, it just looks really beautiful, a sea of green. And so just a general introduction to the greenhouse. So some of you may have never worked in a greenhouse before, and yeah, it was really great listening to or hearing some of your background with greenhouses and also what you're excited to grow this year. And so basically, yeah, a greenhouse is a enclosed structure with either glass or plastic, and it's used for cultivating or protecting tender plants. So greenhouses can be used to start seedlings. They can also be used for planting in the ground. So you can, some farmers do use greenhouses to plant directly into the ground. They might use raised beds, or they might just create beds with the soil. And then the purpose of a greenhouse is to provide a stable atmosphere for seeds and seedlings to grow. And like I said, it's more of a controlled temperature. And then some greenhouse heating methods. So the plastic or the glass structure that offers one layer of protection, and that warms up pretty quickly in the sun. So most of the time greenhouses are just heated by the sun. And then when you have a greenhouse here in the northern climate, in the first few weeks, it is good to have an extra layer of protection, like a tarp, or sometimes farmers will even put an extra layer of plastic on their greenhouse. I'm pretty sure at Big River Farms we do use a tarp. In the beginning, first weeks being in the greenhouse, so typically we start getting in the greenhouse in March, and then you start those very first seedlings, those ones that take a little bit longer to mature, like onions are one example of a plant that you would start kind of early on in the season. Yeah, and then typically most greenhouses have ventilation or fans. So this helps with just having good airflow. It also regulates the heat. So if it ever gets way too hot in there, usually greenhouses are connected to an electrical system, and it will automatically open up, let the hot air out. And then when it gets to a certain temperature, it will open up, let the hot air out, and then close back once it reaches a good temperature. And then I know that some farmers even use wood fire or biomass heatings to heat their greenhouse, which is more of an advanced method of heating. It's just kind of a neat extra thing. I don't think that's how we heat our greenhouse at Big River Farms, but yeah, I know that we do have what it looks like. We have some fans, some ventilation systems, so yeah. And then how to keep seeds warm in a greenhouse, and then just in general, keeping seeds at, most seeds should be germinated at temperatures around 70 to 80 degrees. And then your temperature in the greenhouse should be closely monitored so that it's not getting too low or too high. And then obviously temperatures in the greenhouse will drop at night, so that's just something to keep in mind. And then sometimes people use seedling heat mats to help maintain consistent warm soil temps. So this is just like a little, it's like a mat that you put underneath your seed trays, and it's to a specific temperature, like 75 degrees. And then you just have it under your seed tray, and then it just heats the soil. And you can always cover with row covers, the temperatures get really cold at night. That's another method to keep your seeds warm during the early season. And I just want to pause for a second. If you do have any questions, you can put them in the chat, and I will get to those when I can. My questions might be answered at the very end of this whole presentation. So I will get to your questions, and if I don't get to your questions, I will be sure to follow up with you. And then just a little introduction to the germination chamber. So we do have a germination chamber at Big River Farms. Just a general definition of what that is. It's an insulated shelving structure that creates a warm, dark environment for quickly germinating your seeds. So seeds, they start in the dark, in the soil, and then they do come up. Once they come up, you take them out of the germination chamber and you put them in the greenhouse, so then they're able to absorb the nutrients from the sun. And yeah, like I said, we have 2 germination chambers at Big River Farms. And and yes, we will get the slides. You will get the slides after the class. So on Monday, I will send a follow-up email, and everyone will be getting the slides and the recording of the class. Oops. And yeah, this is just kind of what it looks like. Here are some farmers at Big River Farms. This is what our germination chamber looks like. And then starting seeds in the greenhouse. So seeds are typically started in open flat seed trays or individual plug trays. I will be going over what that is in the next slide. So you'll have different flat sizes for different plant types and different spacings between the plant type that you have. And you always want to wash and sanitize your seed trays before you use them. So there's no bad bacteria or anything that's going to get on your new seedlings. There is an organic certified sanitizer that you can use called Oxidate. I'm not sure if we have that at Big River Farms, but that is an option. And then you always want to label, especially when we're in our communal greenhouse space, you want to label your seed trays, and it will also just help you know what seeds are planted in what tray. So just simply using a popsicle stick and writing what crop it is, and then the variety. So tomato, Cherokee tomato. And yeah, these are a few of our farmers from a few years back, and they are seeding into a 1020 open flat. And then, so yeah, a little bit about the cell flat sizes. So like I was saying, there's the 1020 or 10 by 20 open flat, which is best for seed starting. And then once these seeds germinate, they can be transplanted into cell flat trays. So like these are the cell flat trays. And then the most common cell flat sizes for veggie transplants are 50, 72s, 128s, and 200. So that's just how many cells are in each tray. And then you choose the cell flat based on the plant size and the root growth of that plant. So for example, tomatoes and peppers are typically started in 50 cell flats because they have a larger root mass. So like this is a 50 cell flat, and they're growing either peppers or tomatoes in this one. And then lettuce is directly seeded into a 200 cell flat because they have a smaller root mass. So then these cells will be a little bit smaller, and there'll be more of them. So yeah. Did I miss? Okay. And then repotting. So there's 2 indicators for repotting your seedlings. So a few weeks after germination, you want to begin to kind of look for what is called true leaves. So these are what true leaves are. So you have the initial first germination leaves, which are these ones, and this is Napa cabbage. And then these true leaves start to begin coming out from the center of the plant. And then that's when you want to repot to a different cell flat size or pot once this occurs. So at Big River Farms, you'll be transplanting into a different cell flat. And then also you want to be looking for at the bottom of your flat to see if any of the roots are kind of poking out. That's also an indicator to wanting to needing to repot it into a larger cell flat size. So it is really important to make sure that transplants are in the correct cell size to avoid getting root bound or restricting that root growth. So yeah, these are the true leaves, like I was saying. So they obviously look a lot different than the first leaves. And then the Napa cabbage was being planted into a 72 flat size. And then another important thing to do with your seedlings is to thin them. So you want to thin them down to your 1 healthiest sprout per cell. So you can start doing this after the first true leaves appear and the plant is a bit stronger. And this will just help so you have one really strong sprout coming up. And then it will just grow much larger as one and be a lot more healthier. And then seedlings that are not thin, they kind of tend to compete with one another for food, water, air, and root space. So they're not going to grow as big and they're not going to be as successful. And then also just a fun thing that most of your seedlings can be eaten. You can save them and eat them as sprouts. Put them in your salad, which is really nice. And then another really important indicator when you are starting seeds in the greenhouse is hardening off your transplants before you plant them outdoors, because they've been in such a controlled environment. It's important to slowly introduce them to the outdoors so that they can feel a little bit of that colder weather and also experience the elements outdoors. So yeah, prepping. So hardening off your transplants is prepping indoor raised seedlings to be planted outside, and it makes them a lot more resilient and strong, and it just allows them to have a proper adjustment period. You want to slowly introduce them to the outdoors, and this just helps avoid transplant shock. So transplant shock is when plants get so stressed out and they don't root well. So here's like a picture of what happens if transplant shock does happen. This is what your plant would look like. And at Big River Farms, we harden off all of our transplants. Everyone does that. And everyone should do that if you're starting plants or seedlings in a greenhouse. So they will need a week or longer to harden off. And just be sure that there is no danger of frost in the forecast. So you're not putting them out there and having them be exposed to any frost. So you also want to look at when will your plants need to be transplanted into the ground. This is a good indicator to understand, okay, it's towards the end of May. I want to get my tomatoes in the ground in the next week or so. So I should start hardening them off around this time. So like 2 weeks before you need to plant them into the into the ground. 1 second, I just need some water. Okay. Sorry, I just wanted to pause for a second just to see if there were any questions. And Michael is asking, are there any ways to harden seedlings? I'm actually not sure. I'm wondering if, May, do you know if there's any way to harden seedlings or other ways to harden seedlings? Oh, I'm sorry. That is the only way that I've ever practiced it, is just bringing them out of the greenhouse for a few weeks and then letting them kind of be exposed to the outdoors for a little bit. But yeah, I'm wondering, May, do you know any other ways to harden off seedlings, or are there any other ways at Big River Farms that we do it?
Yes, we did. And that time, so we have the at Big River Farm, we do have most farmer, they build their own table in at Big River Farm. We have so many there, and so they build their own table inside the fence.
Yeah.
And so it had to be up from the ground because we have so many pests down there, and like mouse, and they might cut, and so we built table, and so farmer can bring in and to hardy inside the fence. Yeah, we do. We do all kind of vegetable that you plant inside the greenhouse. You have to be hardy because they're hard enough to be able to survive on the field. When you transplant, they're not close together, and so the field is really open, and so some vegetable will not be able to hold the weather in there, and so that's why we hardy before we transplant, like you said.
Yeah. Are there any other ways to harden off your seedlings other than just bringing them outside? Or is that the main way of doing it?
I think just the main way.
Okay.
Or if you don't want to take outside to the fence, inside the fence, then you can take it outside, and in the nighttime you get back into the greenhouse. It's another way. You have to go back and forth, but yeah, depend on how much time you have. But most farmers are really busy.
Yeah, that is one thing, is that when you're hardening off transplants, you are going to have to bring them back inside at night. It will get colder at night. So yeah, it is kind of like going back and forth. But yeah, that's just what it is. We have to take care of your little tiny seedlings in the beginning process. They need a lot of care and attention.
Can I ask a follow-up question, Becca? This is Matt.
Yes.
My understanding too with hardening off transplants and bringing them outside is that then they get used to kind of the temperature and winds and all the different weather pressures to kind of make them grow stronger. I'm curious if anyone's ever tried doing that indoors with like fans or other equipment, trying to introduce like an artificial wind to harden off transplants, or if it really needs to happen outside to kind of get that full experience of hardening off.
Yeah, I have known like people that have their own like smaller greenhouse, like garden greenhouse. They do that. They'll like have a fan and kind of have the plants get used to like having like wind and different things, being exposed to different things like that. So you can do it that way, if that's what your choice is. So instead of bringing them outside and having them be exposed to the elements outdoors, you can do it kind of in a more controlled setting, I suppose. And yeah, so you can do that using fans.
I also would like to add that if you could do it inside the greenhouse if you only are planting like things that are going to go out at the same time. But in a greenhouse, if because you're planting in different dates, they will be going out different times or even different weeks. So it will be a challenge to try and do anything in the greenhouse. That's why we take them outside and leave some in the greenhouse.
Yes. Thank you for bringing that up, Moses. Okay. So yeah, it's really important to read your seed packets to know when to start your seedlings indoors. So this one says start in a 4-inch pot 3 to 7 weeks before anticipated transplant date. And I think this is a cucurbit variety. I think this is cucumber. And it gives you, your seed packet gives you so much information. So just be sure that you're reading that. It also says days to germination are 4 to 13 days. And this is the best soil temp for this specific variety and seed. And then, so yeah, and then like growing tips and things like that, but it also gives you the germination standard, which is 80%, meaning that 80% of those seeds will come up. Yeah, so just be sure you're reading your seed packets and knowing this. And then now we will go over our greenhouse plan. This is to help you record what you are growing in your greenhouse. And let me just stop sharing all of them. Let me get that. And I did send this all to you in the email, so you should have it. I will send it again in the follow-up email as well. But I'm just going to show you kind of an example of what it looks like. One that has been completed, which I also sent this one to you guys so that you can refer to it for your own greenhouse plan. I highly recommend filling this out for yourself to just keep record and just to have a more organized method of planning. So for this one, we have basil, and then the first date to plant outside, it says May 20th, and it needs 26 days in the greenhouse. Days to maturity from transplant are 40, and the initial flat size was in a 50 cell flat size. And then seeds per cell, so they were planting 3 seeds in 1 cell, and then 12 inches apart from each other, and then they grew it in 2 rows per bed, and then it was medium yield. So yeah, this is a really good reference to have. And like I said, you just want to be looking at the back of your seed packets to kind of know how many days it will need in the greenhouse. So some of these are like celery needs 56 days in the greenhouse. So really keeping in mind some of these more longer dates. And so like leeks need 60 days. So yeah, there are some that will need a lot longer in the greenhouse. And then we also have a list of direct seeded plants. So yeah, like let's do like melons. You want to first plant the seeds outside on May 15th. It needs 18-inch row spacing. And it needs 85 to 95 days till maturity. So that's quite a bit of time. And it was planted in 1 row per bed. And this one said that the yield was low for that specific year. And they planted 2 to 3 seeds together. So this is just a really great way to record what is being planted in the greenhouse, knowing how many days it needs in the greenhouse, days to maturity. Oh, where did you get those number of days? So those number of days, Ku, there was a question asked in the chat, where did you get those number of days from? Oh, days in the greenhouse, are you asking?
Yeah, where did you get that number of days in the greenhouse from? Or is that part of the instruction on the seeding packet, or is that from experience that you guys know, or?
Yeah, it should be on the back of your seed packet.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of good information on the back of your seed packet. You can also look at wherever you purchase your seeds from. There should be like seed catalogs, or if you purchase your seeds online, there should be really detailed information about that exact seed. So just be looking into that and researching that when you get your seeds.
Hi, can you, sorry, can I ask a question?
Yep, you can.
Okay, can you send this as a separate attachment? So outside from the, I know you're gonna send the video. Would that be possible?
Yes, I can send this. Definitely. Yeah, I sent it in on the email, the class reminder email, but I'll send it again. Definitely.
Oh, no worries then. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, so let me get back to the slide. So that was just the introduction to the greenhouse plan. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Sorry, there was just something that popped up. Okay, and let's dive into a little bit about what seeds need to germinate. So they definitely, obviously they need soil, but it is a very specific type of soil. So loose potting soil, not too compact, and having ideal moisture when seeding, so not overwatering it. So you do want your soil to be a little bit moist before seeding, and good airflow. So having the correct flat size is super important for this, not overcrowding, and having good airflow in the atmosphere. So having good airflow in the greenhouse or wherever you're starting your seeds. And then they need heat. So like I was saying, 70 to 80 degrees is an ideal germination temperature, but you do not want to heat your seeds over 95 degrees because it will sterilize and kill them. They can germinate at a lower temperature, but it might be slower and less successful. And then for watering, so you want to make sure that you're lightly watering your seedlings, so kind of misting them in the beginning, and not overwatering them because that can make the germination a little bit less successful. So you want them to be fairly moist, but not super soggy. And then making sure that you're watering 1 to 2 weeks. You want to be in the greenhouse like 2 times a week to check on your seedlings, and they should be watered 2 times a week. And then the light is usually when you're when you're growing in a greenhouse, it's the sunlight. But if you're growing in a different setting, you would use grow lights.
Hey, Becca, can you show your other screen? The only thing we're seeing is your Excel spreadsheet.
Oh, I see. Thank you, Ku.
Sure.
Okay, can you see it now?
No, it's still your Excel spreadsheet.
Okay. Okay, how about now?
Yes.
Perfect. Sorry about that. Okay. And like I said, I'll give you guys these slides on Monday, so don't feel like you have to write everything down right now. I'll give you the slides and the recording on Monday. And then I briefly touched base on germination rate, but I'll go a little bit more into depth with this. So germination rate defined is just a success rate at which this particular batch of seeds sprouted during trials at the seed company. So if the germination rate is 95%, that means that about 95% of the seeds should sprout. And then it will also help you determine how many seeds are planted per cell. And then a little bit about seed starting soil or medium. Start seedlings in the fresh seedling starting mix. You want this to be free of woody chunks, have it be fluffy, and have no fertilizer added to it. And then May, I'm wondering if you can discuss a little bit about the seed starting mixes that we use at Big River Farms, like the Cowsmo, and do you mind touching base on that?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, the sealing soil is we have the company. We have to look for like via organic, but the person who did not do organic, then they like to try to become an organic person or farming. That we have the company they call Cowsmo. And also one I looking for this year, I searching, I got one called Purple Cow. And so also organic potting soil and for your seed starter. And this is it, how you're gonna starting, like example, like in the picture here. And when you're gonna starting your seed, you need to moist your soil before you're gonna put into your flat or your tray or your cup. And so you can put seed in there, and you don't want to water, really heavy water. And so that gonna be idea that you do seed starter in the greenhouse. And so we have at the greenhouse, we have the thing they're gonna use, we call nozzle, and the funnel that we're gonna put on the end of the water hole. And we have different kind, but in that time on the orientation day, we will show you what we have. And so yeah, the potting soil is for seeding day this is the soil. And so if you do organic, you not to buy the one that they have like just buy from Manor or any potting soil is good, but have to be organic potting soil. And two company is the Cowsmo and Purple Cow. And so we have those. If you did not know what to find, contact us, and one of our staff at Beaver Farm can help you to order potting soil. Now is a good time to do, because take about 2 weeks to they have so many farmer order from the company. And so if who with Beaver Farm, now it's time to order, and so they're gonna deliver on the 28th in February. And so that's how the potting soil is. And so you can put into a flat, and you can fill all your flat and sealing. And so we have germination chamber, we can stick into it or putting outside, like back just telling couple minutes ago. Do
Thank
I
you, May.
cover? Back up?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah, and I know that a lot of our farmers also do purchase they do purchase potting soil from Cowsmo. And since that is the case, since we have so many farmers that purchase from there, we do have that delivered all together on the same day. So to Big River Farms. So if that is something that you're interested in buying, let us know. And then we can tell you what the process is that you have to go through to purchase that. And then it will be delivered to Big River Farms as like kind of a bulk order. But you will be needing to pay for your own soil individually, your own potting soil individually.
Okay, I'm gonna add a little bit in there. If who is not farming at Beaver Farm and they want to buy potting soil, they go ahead and order, and because the shipping costs almost the same like the you purchase the potting soil if you order small amount. And if who you want to order with Beaver Farm, now it's time to do. And so they deliver to Beaver Farm, and you can come pick it up, and cheaper that way too. And so you don't have to at Beaver Farm farmer. You outside, but you take the course, and you can be able to purchase by yourself, and so deliver with us. Yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you.
How much does it cost, and do we order by the pounds or the bags, or how does that go?
Yeah, typically, depending on how much land you're farming on, you order by the pounds.
Okay.
So like one tote will cover 2 cubic yards. But yeah, typically when you're farming on a larger scale, you'll buy by the pound.
I'm gonna tell each cubic yard, or no, each toast we call 2 cubic yard, we call a toast. And one toast this year, the price up. Last year is 170, including $170, including the shipping. But this year gonna be $185 because everything's up. And I talked to John, and he said that this year the deliver up each 50 pound $3 up, and so that's gonna be cost $185 per tote. Just let farmer know that.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for letting us know. Okay. So yeah, like we were saying, the seed starting soil should have an ideal moisture retention. And just a note that seeds do contain all of the nutrients needed to allow the seed to germinate or sprout and grow its new baby plant for at least the first 2 weeks of life. Yeah, right. And then a little bit about the difference between direct seeding versus transplanting, and knowing what is best direct seeded versus transplant. So when you're direct seeding, that means that seed is just quicker to germinate. It has more of a delicate root system, and it will require thinning once it's germinated. So these, yeah, and so some plants should only be direct seeded, and some plants should only be transplanted. So when you're transplanting, like we've been saying, there's more control and predictability. They will mature sooner and will have earliest harvest time. And then also, additionally to that, transplants are more resistant towards pests and other diseases. And then this is just kind of a generalized list or an overview of some things that are more direct seeded and transplanted. So beets, carrots, peas, radishes, spinach, squashes, and turnips are typically direct seeded. And then these plants are mostly transplanted, like celery, eggplant, collards, kale, broccoli, kohlrabi, leeks, onion, peppers, scallions, and tomatoes. And we went over that a little bit in the crop profiles class as well, like I was saying. So this is just another kind of introduction to that. And so, yeah, I just wanted to maybe leave just a little open period right here before we transition into talking about Big River Farm tools, to see if there's any questions about seed starting or the greenhouse. Yeah, just taking a little pause here.
So just a question, when you say direct seeding, are you referring that to planting the seed directly into the soil, into the ground, or is that after seeding and then you move it to the ground?
Yes. Yeah, so direct seeding is when you're planting it directly into the ground, directly into the bed.
Okay. That
you're growing in. Yep.
Do you recommend inoculating the seeds?
I've never done that. I think it would depend on the seed. May, when would you recommend inoculating the seed?
If you do like flower, yeah, you did. But we don't do flower, and we did not inoculate the seed because they have shallow skin. But if you do flower, then now it's time to do already passed inoculate. And so the thing you want to plant is like hard hot seed, like the skin is really thick, and you can do that. And yeah, we do our vegetable. We did not do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I have a question.
Yeah.
We started doing some bitter melon seedling, and it when we transplant to the potting cell, after a few days, it dies. Is there a way to know what causes it to die, or is there something to prevent it from dying?
So you're saying when it sprouts, you transplant it to a different,
Correct.
and then it dies?
Yeah.
We're
not sure. We think that it might be some kind of bacteria or some kind of pesticides, but we don't know. So we're just wondering if there's a way to determine that.
Yeah, I would do some research on bitter melon itself and see if they're prone to diseases, and kind of learn a little bit more about starting the seeds for that specific plant. And then just kind of understanding kind of more of its needs, like maybe it doesn't do well in really wet soil, or maybe it does a lot better with a lot of heat. I would just like do some in-depth research on it. I'm not super familiar with bitter melon. I don't know if anyone in this class is familiar with growing it. If they have any insight on that.
Yeah,
that would
I
be my-
have some answer for you.
Oh, perfect.
Okay. You do better melon, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Better melon. I can answer you now, because better melon, cucumber, and squash, they have the root. It's very sensitive. They don't like their feet to get out and touch air. And so if you do that, then you do in the hot day. If you do in the greenhouse in the shady, sometimes you might get, but most cucumber and squash, sometimes they survive, but they really stretch. But you have to hide it into the shade area. And bitter melons, I do a lot, and I try many techniques. And so the one that you repotting, you put onto the open tray and you repotting. That is a small percentage to get it, because the root don't like any air to touch them. And so and also they're really bitter. And the bitter already, when you take it out, and they already shot and they die. And so
you recommend not to transplant them?
I recommend not to do it. You want to do in a 50 cell. Most people, they like to do the small cell, but remember the seed is really big, and you need to put into 50 cell, and you don't want to think about too much soil. You have to do that. Think about the yield, and so you can put in there, and they can stay longer, and they're nice and healthy. And when you transplant, then you're gonna get good yield or growing really well in that time. And so better melon, I not recommend to repotting. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Becca.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, May.
Let's go another question.
Yes.
Since I'm my wife and I were seeding at home, we don't have a greenhouse. We do it down basement. Do you guys have or do you guys recommend any source or vendor that would give good lighting units that we can purchase that would act like a sun, that would or be like a greenhouse?
Yeah, there are a lot of different light bulbs that you can purchase, like at Menards even, that are specifically like grow lights, and lamps that you can use so that it can get up to a certain heat. So I can send you some more resources in an email with some of that information and places that you can purchase grow lights.
Sure.
And then I don't know if you use seed mats at all, but that would be really beneficial for growing indoors to just keep the soil temperature warm. And yeah, I'll send you some resources.
Sure. Sounds good.
Yeah, you're welcome. One second, everyone. I have to figure out the interpretation really quick.
¿Escuchan?
Hi, Mario.
So I want to add that in addition to what Boo asked in reference to the glow lights. So what I
Yes.
did, I just bought some wire racks, from Menards, and then, they do have a variety that you could choose from in the LED ones, in the light section too. And if you're not sure, you can always just ask someone there, to specific on where the glow lights are. Someone will point you to the right direction too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Dee. Okay, if there aren't any other questions about seeds, I can hand it off to Pierce. And Pierce, I will just share my screen with your PowerPoint slides, and I can just kind of click through them if you just want to tell me when to move to the next slide. Does that sound good?
Yeah, we can do that if you want. I did add a couple slides just with some updates. So I don't know if you want me to share my screen, or I can just talk about them and not have pictures too. Doesn't matter.
Okay, yeah, no, you can share your screen. Are you able to do that?
Well, let me try, I guess.
Well,
Let me stop sharing mine and then.
¿se me escucha hoy?
Oh, Mario, you got a question?
¿Puedo hablar ahorita? Sí, mi pregunta es, así como yo que no sé nada de semillas ni de plantas, ¿dónde voy a obtener a comprar las plantitas con ustedes? Con arriba.
Un momento, Mario.
Sí,
I-
¿me escuchan ahora? And I understand that Mario didn't have a good idea about the seed preparation and wants to know if Big River Farms provides the plants ready to take to the field.
So Mario will need to purchase his own seeds.
Mario
And
tiene
he will start his seeds in the greenhouse.
Mario tiene que comprar sus propias semillas y las lleva al invernadero y ahí le enseñan cómo plantarlas en las charolas y cuando crezcan llevarlas al campo.
Ah, está bien.
And if he needs, Andreas, if he needs help purchasing seeds, he can let Emilio know, and then Emilio and I can work with him on helping purchase seeds.
Si necesita ayuda para comprar las semillas, usted puede hablar con Emilio y con Becca para que le ayuden a escoger y comprar las semillas ahí.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then I should also note that we will be having a greenhouse, May I brought this up a little bit, a greenhouse orientation for our new farmers. I sent out an email, an invite for that. And so we will be having that on March 12th, and I will be sending out kind of a more detailed email closer to the date about times and a time to for people to kind of put their names in the schedule so we know who's coming when. And that way our new farmers can kind of get to know what our greenhouse looks like, what we require, and the space that we have available, because each farm will have their own table to grow their seedlings.
Mario, apunte en su calendario el día 12 de marzo. El día 12 de marzo van a tener un día de orientación para el invernadero. Y ese día les van a explicar cómo hacer el calendario y cada quien va a tener su mesa.
Y yo tengo, perdón, una pregunta más. Y yo tengo que ordenar la tierra para hacer la plantación de las plantas, de las semillas.
And his question was again about the soil. Can I just answer that? He said, do I have to buy the soil? And usted puede comprar la tierra para las semillas. Ahí, la puede pedir ahí mismo en la granja para que llegue ahí mismo a la granja. Usted nada más les dice cuántas libras hay.
Está bien, gracias.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
I just explained to him that it might be easier if he orders the soil with you, because then it's delivered to you and it's a little cheaper. The shipping is cheaper, right?
Yes, that is correct. And we can, Emilio and I can also, when we're going over seeds with him, we can also go over the soil purchasing with him as well.
Y también Emilio y Beca le van a explicar cómo comprar el suelo, y ahí va a llegar a la granja, la tierra.
Excelente, gracias.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, Pierce, are you able to share your screen?
I think so. Yep. Let me see what happens when I do this.
Perfect. Oh, yep, there we go.
Okay, sweet. All right, well, thank you, Becca, for that introduction on seedlings and greenhouse stuff. I'm just gonna go over, I kind of have two different presentations. The first one we're gonna go over is about the different tractors and the tractor implements that we have out here at Big River Farms. Again, this is just gonna be an introduction, so I'm not gonna go into too much depth. That's something that we'll kind of go into at a later time, the tractor classes and tractor trainings.
Hello, Pierce.
Oh, yep, go ahead.
Could you transfer me to the interpretation? Thank you.
All right. So yeah, so it's just going to be introduction. If you have any questions, yeah, either put them in the chat, or you can feel free to just kind of voice, turn your speaker on, and you can just kind of butt in, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. All right, so first up, so over here in this red tractor in the top left of your screen, it's called a Farmall 140. We have two of these tractors out at the farm. These tractors are mainly used for weeding your vegetables in the fields. They're called a cultivating tractor. Yeah, so there's different setups, different tools that we have for them. And they allow you to kind of just efficiently weed your vegetables. This big green tractor in the middle here, this is kind of the main tractor that we use out here at the farm. We use this to prep the fields in the springtime. We use this to seed cover crops. This is definitely just our kind of general use tractor that we use out here at the farm. And we just have one of those big John Deere tractors. And then up here in the corner, we have the BCS. So right now we just have one BCS. This is called a two-wheel tractor. This is used for smaller spaces. So usually farmers will use this on like 2 acres or less of land. So a lot of farmers out here at Big River do use the BCS tractor. Like I said, right now we only have one, but we actually just received some new funding to purchase a second BCS. So we will have 2 BCS tractors on the farm this season. We also have some mowers. So again, we have a 50-inch mower that you kind of ride on top of and drive. And then we do have 2 21-inch just push mowers that you can use out in your field. Most folks, I think, use these last year just for kind of mowing their aisles or mowing around their fields. All right, so we're gonna start looking at some of the different equipment we have for the tractors. This first one is called a chisel plow. It's 72 inches wide. So just so everyone knows, on all of these slides, I did include like how wide the implements are, just in case you think you want to use one, then you can kind of have a better idea of when you're planning your field layout about like what different tools you're able to actually fit into certain spaces. So anyways, yep, this is called the chisel plow. It's used to like open new ground. It can help break up compact soil. That's kind of what you see happening in the second picture down here in the bottom right. That's probably being used to break up some compact soil. This can also help with drainage. So it can allow water to kind of infiltrate or go deeper into your soil in your fields. And it can be helpful against crabgrass, which is a weed that we have out here at the farm. Next up, we have the disc harrow. This one is about, it's about 10 feet wide, so 120 inches. This is mainly used to kind of level out your fields. It's called a secondary tillage, so you're not opening up new ground with this. You can use it to kill cover crops in the springtime. It kind of flips over the first top layers of soil. So that's what you see happening over in this top picture, is it's kind of flipping over some of the soil. So that's what the ground is going to look like after you make a couple passes with the disc harrow. And yeah, and like I said before, it kind of helps level out the field so there isn't any holes or bumps that you run into. Next up, we have the flail mower. So this is used, you can use it just to kind of mow around your fields if you want, but a lot of times it's used to mow down cover crop and just old vegetable material. What it does is it cuts all the material into very small pieces. So what that does is it allows for the soil to be able to kind of digest that material a lot easier. So it just breaks down faster back into the soil. This implement we don't actually own. We rent it from the Wilder Foundation. They have their office just down the road. So this implement isn't always on the farm, but it is something that we can rent if farmers need to use it. I'll take a quick pause. Any questions so far about those first couple things or about any of the tractors we have out here?
Yeah, so question. So if we don't rent a parcel of land at Big River Farms, and we are doing it on our own land, what equipment would you guys recommend for us to purchase that would do the similar jobs that you guys have these bigger equipments?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, because not everyone on the call is at Big River. That's a good point. So a lot of times, depending on where you're renting land, I would say you can try and contact other farmers in your area if you're needing kind of bigger jobs that need to till your field or flail mow. A lot of times you can find some good community in the farmers surrounding you. So usually you can hire folks to do some work for you. If it's a bigger job, if it's kind of smaller jobs such as like weeding, that is something where you might want to consider purchasing a two-wheeled tractor such as a BCS, because that particular tractor, you can buy a lot of different implements for it to kind of accomplish the same goals as kind of some of this larger equipment. But you can also purchase older small tractors. Like for my farm, for example, I actually have two small tractors that I use for weeding, but also for some of the tilling that I do. So that can be another option as well. Does that answer your question?
Yep.
Perfect. Anything else so far?
I got a follow-up question, Pierce.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you know of any local resources for renting these types of large equipment if farmers don't want to purchase it themselves?
That's a good question. I know up here near the farm, there is a place in Stillwater that rents. They have like a kind of John Deere tractor that they rent out, and they have a couple implements. So if you're located near Stillwater, I believe that company is called Action Rental. They do have like a John Deere tractor with some implements that you can rent. I don't know of anywhere that has a smaller like 2-wheel BCS tractor, unfortunately. Yeah, that's the only one I know of. All right, I'm going to keep cruising, then I'll take another break in a little bit for some more questions. Okay, so this is a rototiller. This is used mainly to prep your vegetable beds for transplanting. It kind of helps cut up any organic material that might be on the soil. Minimize that. Here, this picture down here in the corner can kind of give you an idea of what the soil looks like after it's been worked. So it's pretty powder-like, pretty fluffy. So that's kind of what happens with the rototiller. It does mix up the first top layers of the soil. It can cause soil compaction over time, so you do want to be careful with how much you use a rototiller. That is one issue out here at Big River Farms. A lot of these fields have been rototilled too much, so there is a layer of compact soil about 8 to 10 inches underneath the surface. So that is something you kind of want to be careful about when you're using a rototiller. This is also a rototiller. It's just a slightly smaller size. I'm not going to go into too much detail. It basically accomplishes the same goals. It's just slightly smaller. This tool is the plastic mulch layer. A lot of folks did use this last season. You can kind of see from these pictures, it creates about a 32-inch plastic mulch bed. If you're interested in using this tool, you can kind of shoot me an email. I can give you some more details about what type of plastic and like what type of drip tape to use. But basically, you're going to need a 4-foot wide piece of plastic mulch. This does require 2 people to use. You have to have 1 person driving the tractor and 1 person kind of managing the plastic mulch layer in the back. And then you do need to be either rototilling or disking your soil before you use this plastic mulch layer, because the soil does need to be broken up quite a bit. It doesn't handle a lot of organic matter very, very well. This is another helpful tool we have out here at the farm. It's called a water wheel transplanter. So what it can do, it helps you transplant your seedlings that you're starting in the greenhouse. You can either transplant 1 row, 2 rows, or 3 rows all at the same time. The big yellow tank up here at the top, you can actually fill that up with water or with a compost tea, fertilizer, anything like that, to actually give your transplants a little drink of water as you're transplanting them, which can be helpful. With this particular equipment, you do need at least three people to operate it. So you can see there's 2 people sitting in the back transplanting the plants, and then you'll of course need 1 person driving the tractor. Okay, I'll take another short break. Any new questions while we're here?
Yeah, again, for us who didn't rent land there, you guys have a smaller scale for us that we could purchase for planting or transplanting directly into the soil?
Yeah, so for transplanting, actually, I'll get to that in the hand tool section. There is something called a paper pot transplanter that we have out here at the farm. So I'll talk more about that in a little bit. And then as for seeding, there are some small tools that you can purchase. I'm not sure exactly what they're called, but you can shoot me an email if you want. And I can give you some recommendations for some smaller seeding tools.
Sure, sounds good.
Yeah.
Hey, Pierce, I just put a link in the chat for a company called Ready Rent that's based in St. Louis Park in Minneapolis. I know they also have some smaller scale kind of walk behind implements for rent, including some cedars and pillars and skid steers. So
Okay.
if folks are interested in that, check out that link. It's called Ready Rent, REDDY rent.com.
All right, perfect. Good to know. Thanks, Matt. All right, any other questions about it? Any of the implements yet? All right, we'll keep cruising. So this is one of our grain drills that we have out here at the farm. This is basically used to seed cover crops. I know we did have one farmer who used it to seed some corn last year, and I think it worked fairly well for them. This particular seed drill does have 2 hoppers, so it can actually seed 2 different sizes of seeds at the same time, which can be handy. And before you use this seed drill, you do have to disc your land first to kind of help level it out. You can't just seed it into cover crop or something like that. This is our second seed drill that we have here at the farm. This is called a no-till seed drill. It's pretty handy. You do not have to disc the land or really do anything before you use the seed drill. You can just do everything in one pass. It actually has a pair of discs at the front. I should have taken a picture. You can just barely see them up here at this front corner. But what they do is they actually open up the soil just a little bit. So the seeds have really nice contact with the soil when you're cruising through your fields. Again, this is used to seed cover crops. You could use it to seed corn or beans or anything like that if you wanted to. This one actually has 3 different seed hoppers. So you can do 3 different types of seeds if you really want to go crazy with it. Let's see, it does, yeah, so it is like less soil disturbance. So if you're interested in kind of having more of a no-till or a minimal till farm, this is definitely a tool that you'll want to think about using on your land. All right, I think we only have a couple more slides left. We're getting to the end of the tractor section. We do have one of these on the farm. This is called a fertilizer spreader. It spreads about a 7 feet wide kind of section when you have it turned on. It can only be used for like dry fertilizers. So we do have one variety of fertilizer that's in a pelleted form. It's called High Island chicken fertilizer out here at the farm. But it is small and it's in a dry form, so it allows it to really spread it out on your fields. You can adjust the spreading rate on this based off kind of the speed of your tractor. Yeah, this tool mainly is useful if you're trying to put out a lot of fertilizer on your field. All right, this is called a basket weeder. So this would be used with the Farmall, that red Farmall tractor that I showed everyone at the beginning of the presentation. So this is just one of the mini weeding tools that we have. So right now it's spaced at about 14 inches between the rows. It does only kill small weeds. So the weeds need to be about less than like 1 inch in height. So you do have to be kind of weeding a little more frequently if you're planning on using this tool. And then the other important part is that you want to make sure you have really straight rows when you're using this tool, because if one of your, if you have 3 rows of something and one of your rows is off, then you might be taking out some of your vegetables, which you don't want to do. And then, yeah, the picture over here on the right just shows you the weeding basket in action, weeding a couple rows of, that might be spinach. It's not a very good picture, but it's weeding something pretty well too. These are just some other weeding tools we have for the red cultivation tractors. These can be used if you have a little bit larger weeds that are maybe 1 or 2 inches tall. Again, you can adjust them to your specific row spacing. So these can be pretty handy as well. These this kind of spiked disc down here in the bottom. This can actually be used to weed the sides of your either raised beds or plastic mulch beds. So that if you're thinking of either doing raised beds or plastic mulch beds, that might be something you want to think about using this season. Okay, we got a lot of tools here. I didn't realize how many tools we had. It's great. This is a bed lifter. I don't think very many farmers actually used this last season, but I think it definitely is a good tool to have out at the farm. What this does is it actually cuts underneath vegetables to make harvest a lot easier. So you can use this for garlic or for onions. You could try to use this with carrots. I'm not sure if it would go quite deep enough, but you could try. It would definitely help, help make harvest easier. You could use it for beets as well. And yeah, you can just kind of see from the picture on the right, it basically travels underneath the soil, under your vegetables to, just loosen up the soil and make them easier to pull out of the ground.
Hey, Pierce, that's a tractor attachment?
This is a tractor attachment. Yep. So we would use this on the green John Deere tractor. Okay, next up we have our, this is a sprayer, so we can use this to spray compost teas, or if there is a certain organic approved pesticide that you need to use. This is what we hook up to our green John Deere tractor. It can spray either one bed or 3 beds at a time. So that can kind of just be a nice efficiency thing there if you're hoping to use that. Okay, I'm going to stop there for a second. Any new questions that anyone has?
Pierce, we do have a question in the chat.
Okay.
I don't know if you would know this, but Dee was asking how much is a pallet of chicken fertilizer?
Ooh, yeah, I unfortunately don't know that off the top of my head. I want to say I know last year the price, I think, for a whole pallet was around, it was pretty cheap. I think it was around I want to say $200 or so. But I would have to, Dee, if you want to just email me, I can look that up and I'll get back to you on that. All right, any other questions? All right. So that was the kind of the end of our big tractor tools. Here I'll have a couple slides of BCS tools that you can use. So this is for the smaller 2-wheeled tractor. So this might be some useful information for you if you're thinking about using or purchasing like a BCS tractor for your own land. That's kind of useful for smaller scale farming.
Sure, cool.
Yeah,
I looked at it and it's pretty expensive too. So
they can definitely get expensive. So that is something to consider.
So my mom actually likes to, those tillers that you can just buy from Walmart or Menards that are much smaller than the BCS, because that BCS is actually way too heavy for her. So she actually uses, just the cheaper ones that you can buy from the store. That, and also she likes the grass, what do you call it? The one that you can cut grass, but it's
the grass cutter?
Yeah, the grass cutter that has the strings.
Oh yeah, like a weed whacker.
Yes, a weed whacker. She likes that weed whacker, and just a cheaper store-bought tiller that she can use in between the rows. Yeah,
that's a good point, Dee. So there are definitely small rototillers that you can purchase for pretty cheap from like Menards, Home Depot, places like that. And then weed whackers can be useful too. I know I used the weed whacker quite a bit out at our plot this last season. To cut down weeds or old vegetable material. That's a good point.
I just purchased a earthquake tine tiller.
Mm-hmm.
And now I just saw this one that you presented here. This one is much more versatile and much more you can do more things with it. So I really like this machine.
Yeah, yeah, it can be. Yeah, it's pretty versatile, definitely. Yeah, you can do lots of different things. All right, well, I'll get into the presentation, then yeah, I'll take a break at the end for some more questions. Yeah, so this is the first tool for the BCS. It's called a rotary plow. As you can kind of see from the picture, it can be used to really kind of open up new ground. It can also be used to make raised beds. So if you're interested in making raised beds, this is going to be a useful tool. I know Michael and Kazua, they had some raised beds this last season and they did them all by hand, which you can do, but it's a lot of work. So we did purchase this tool last fall in case other farmers are interested in doing that to help you, yeah, save some time and some hard work.
Yeah, a year too late there.
Yeah, a year, unfortunately, yeah, unfortunately, a year too late, right? You can also use it if you're like have leaks or something, you can kind of use it to hill your leaks. Or if you were growing potatoes, you could use it for this. Again, we can't grow potatoes out here at Big River still for another year or two, but you could use it for that if you were somewhere else. This particular model only does throw dirt to the right. There are some models you can buy that throws it to the right or to the left. This one only throws it to the right. Oh, there we go. Okay, so this is a rototiller. So it's just a smaller scale for the BCS. Again, it just mixes those top layers of the soil. Again, you want to be careful because it can lead to soil compaction over time if you use it too much. This will be another new tool that we're going to hopefully be purchasing sometime this next month. It's called a power harrow. We're going to be getting a 30-inch power harrow for the BCS. It basically accomplishes the same thing as a rototiller, except instead of mixing the soil horizontally, rather than mixing the soil vertically like a rototiller, this one mixes it horizontally. Why is that important? Basically, it leads to less soil compaction. So this is a kind of better tool to use over a long period of time. It can also limit the amount of new weed seeds that are brought up to the surface of the soil because it's not bringing that soil up to the surface quite as much. This is a flail mower. Again, it's just a smaller scale for the BCS. You know, you can use it to mow down your cover crops or to cut down old vegetable material. Again, it just is chopping all that stuff into very small pieces. This is another new tool that we purchased this last fall for the BCS. It's a compost spreader. Pretty handy. You can use it to spread compost, fertilizer, wood chips, anything you'd like. The material just needs to be a 1/2 inch or smaller in size. And it can hold about 6.5 cubic feet if you're curious. So yeah, there we go, the compost spreader. Oh, and then last but not least, for those of you who are going to be at Big River this next season, I am going to be sending out an email about tractor training. And just based off of time, I know we're almost close to the end of class. So I'll just send out an email explaining tractor trainings. That's going to be happening in March and April, and then that will continue into the season as well. Any new questions about BCS implements before I move over to a quick presentation on hand tools that we have out here?
So if we don't rent land there, can we still come and learn how to use those equipments or no?
Ooh, that's a good question. I guess we haven't actually discussed that as a staff, but I'll bring that up at our next staff meeting, and that's something that we could discuss and get back to you. Yeah, if you're part of just the education only program. Yeah, that's a good question.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right. Any other questions? No. All right. I'll switch over to the hand tool presentation, and I'll go fast. Maybe if I can, 1 second. Oh, here we go. Okay, here's the hand tools. So hand tools at Big River, again, we got lots of various hand tools for everyone to use. So here are some tools if you have some compact soil that you're trying to loosen up. We have lots of different just shovels you can use. We do have some potato forks. We do have a 20-inch broad fork. This is kind of a pretty common tool for farmers that are kind of under that 2-acre scale. This is just used to loosen up your soil and provide some aeration to your growing spaces that you have. So these are a lot of different direct seeders that we have. So earlier today, Becca was talking about direct seeding versus transplanting. So these are some of the tools that you'll likely be using if you choose to direct seed some of your crops. I'll talk about the two on the left here first. These are called earthway seeders. Usually you see them just as single units. This one that has 3 units, that's something that I think someone made out here at the farm at some point. Basically, it just allows you to plant 3 rows at one time versus 1 row. But these, I think they're a little bit more affordable. I want to say they're, I don't know, between $100 and $200, depending on where you buy them. Sometimes you can find them used as well. But they have different seed plates that you can put in them. So those different seed plates allow you to plant, just different types of crops like corn or radishes, carrots, beans, anything like that. This 6-row seeder in the middle here, this is mainly used, I would say, for salad mixes and greens. That's the main thing I've used it before. It works well for smaller seeds. So lettuce is typically a pretty small seed. I suppose you could use it maybe for beets or carrots. Again, it does plant 6 rows at a time, and those rows are only about 2¼ inches apart. So it is a pretty close spacing on that. And then over here, this last one, it's called a Jang seeder. This is basically just a fancier version of an earthway. They are quite a bit more expensive. I think you're looking more like $300 to $400 for a Jang seeder. Again, we have one at the farm that everyone can use. Works the same way as the earthway. There's just different seed plates that you can put into it to plant, different types of crops like radishes, carrots, beets, anything like that. Transplanting. So Koo, I know Koo had a question earlier about transplanting. So this big orange, strange looking tool here is called a paper pot transplanter. You do have to grow your seedlings or your transplants in a specific style of tray called a paper pot tray. They can be a little bit expensive, but it is something that you're going to kind of say it'll save you some time in the long run if you're interested in using this tool. If you're in, I would say it's best if you're interested in the paper pot transplanter, probably just look up a video on YouTube of it in use. It's kind of hard to explain, but basically you put a tray of plants here, and then they kind of just fall out the back and get planted into the soil. Again, you have to use a very specific paper pot tray if you want to use this tool. The other thing we have out here at the farm for transplanting is something called a gritter. Basically, you can roll this over your bed that you've prepped, and it will give you kind of, it'll make a print in the soil of where you can be transplanting your specific plants. So it'll just save you some time and make sure that all of your rows are, at equal spacing. These are some weeding tools that we have out here. So we have single wheel hose and double wheel hose. So here's some pictures of those here. These work well for smaller weeds. I'd say that are about 1 inch tall. We do have a 10-inch wheel weeder. I can't say I've actually used this before, but we have one. So if you want to use it, it's here. I can't tell you too much about it, but we have one. And then the last one, again, I don't really know too much about this. It's called a garden weasel. I can't say I've used it before either, but again, we got one if you want to use it. Pretty exciting. This is a TerraTech wheel hoe and finger weeder. This is something we bought last fall. I'm hoping a lot of people will use it this springtime. It's one of my favorite tools. I think it works really well. So how it works, you can see it has two wheels here. Basically, you put your vegetable row right in between those two rows. And then there's these two knives that you can adjust on either side of your vegetable row. So you can either have the knives, really close to the vegetables or really far away. And then behind those knives are something called finger weeders. And those are those kind of yellow things at the back of the machine. And what those do is they kill really small weeds, but they actually get in between each of your plants. So hopefully folks will use this because it's a pretty great tool. Okay, only a couple more slides and then we're done. So we only got a couple more minutes. I'll go fast. This is called a flame weeder. It can be kind of difficult to use. You actually use this after you direct seed your plants. Well, I shouldn't say plants, I guess, after you direct seed your seeds. So if, for example, if you planted carrots, you would prep your bed, you would seed your carrots in your row, and then you would wait maybe 2 or 3 days, and then you would actually flame weed that row. And what that does is it kills any very small thread-like weeds. So ideally, this is just helping, kill some weeds before your carrots or whatever you've planted have actually emerged from the soil. You have to be careful when you're using this because if your vegetable has already emerged from the soil and you use a flame weeder, you're also going to kill your vegetable. So this is something that you want to be careful when you're using it because it can be dangerous. These are just a couple kind of general tools we have, T-post remover and pounder you can use that for like trellising cucumbers, tomatoes, anything like that. We do have this tool called a hula hoe. This is one of my favorite tools. You can see the little hula hooping person there just for fun. It's also called a stirrup hoe is another name that I've heard it called. Or an oscillating hoe. So it has many different names. Basically, this just helps you weed the very surface of the soil. Again, really kind of killing weeds that are about 1 inch or less. Also have a measuring wheel. Again, this can just be useful for measuring out your plot, planning, and kind of making your field plan. I won't talk too much about these next couple slides, but they're just kind of some basic hand tools we have, more shovels, some pitchforks, post hole digger, we have some rakes, and then we have lots of different kinds of hoes. I honestly, I don't know the different names of all of these. If someone does, you get a gold star for the day because there's lots of different kinds. And last but not least, this is a new system we have this season. It's called a tool checkout board. We'll talk about it more when we're doing on-farm orientation, but basically whenever you're checking out a board, we have this checked in board. So you take the little magnet from the checked in board and then you put it on your checked out space over here again. So everyone will have their own little space. So for example, like May, this is her space. So she checked out an earthway seeder, a hula hoe, and a rake. And then when she returns those, she'll check them back into the tool checkout board. All right, that was quick. I think it's 11 o'clock exactly. Any quick questions before I pass it back over to Becca? No, I just did such a great job that there's no questions. Perfect.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much, Pierce, for sharing all the Big River Farm tools that we have available and just farm tools in general that farmers use on their farms.
Yep.
Yeah, are there any other just general questions right now? I know we're kind of getting a little bit over time. And if there are questions, you can always feel free to reach out to us. I did email you all with some office hours that I have. So this Tuesday, I have office hours from 6 to 7:30. So you can just kind of pop in on the Zoom call. And we can meet and discuss. I can provide any technical assistance for you, or we can just chat about your goals or stuff that you're excited about for the season. And yeah, and the same for March. I'll have office hours in March as well. So. Okay, well, if there aren't any other questions, I hope you all have a great weekend. Thank you all for being here on this Saturday morning and taking the time to learn with us. And yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye, May.
Thanks, Andrea.
Thank you, Joy. Gracias, Mario.